Hello everybody, it's Mr. Morfetto, and today I want to dissect another character from My Hero Academia. The next kid in Class 1A on my list is Tenya Ida. Hero name, Ingenium, Quark Engine. Where do I start with this amazing character? I'm not sure. You see, Tenya Ida is pretty cool, and the first time you really meet the guy in the story, he's kind of a dick. Not really a dick, but rude-ish, because you meet him during the first season, before you meet really any of the other kids in Class 1A. He's one of the first to appear to our main character, to Izuku. Izuku shows up to try and get into UA during the UA entrance exams. And I believe it was Present Mike who was explaining the rules of the exam, and Izuku was muttering to himself like he does, and it was distracting to Ida. Ida stood up and said, "Hey, you, sir, over there, main character, I need you to be quiet because I'm trying to listen to Present Mike right now. Please shut up or leave." Because Izuku was very scared and nervous and trying to analyze everything, all these big things. He's surrounded by kids who have had their quirks for many, many years and probably are way more adept at using them. Izuku had yet to use one for all just yet. But when we first meet the dude, when we first meet Tenya Ida, you start to think maybe this guy is going to be a rival character for Izuku, but no, because quickly during the entrance exams, when Izuku breaks his arm and legs to save Ochako, fighting the giant robot beast, Ida is one of the first kids to realize maybe there's more to this entrance exam than just smashing robots. Maybe you have to show the heart of a hero. Maybe you have to be heroic. And maybe there's more to this. Maybe there's more to Izuku Midoriya than he first thought. He's not just a muttering child afraid of everything. I think Ida was one of the first kids of Class 1A to really befriend our main character. And it really felt early on in My Hero Academia that Ida might be a top tier character. Not necessarily a Bakugo, the ultimate rival to Izuku, but one of the top characters in Class 1A that we're going to spend a lot of time with, especially early on. I mean, quickly, Izuku gets nominated as the class rep, but then he passes that on to Ida, realizing how much of a burden, not really a burden, that Izuku wasn't really ready yet to take that on. He was so nervous and afraid to speak his mind. Whereas Ida, he's very confident about himself and very willing to tell everybody not to break the damn rules. He's trying to keep this class in order. So Ida and Momo become the class reps, basically. Momo's number 2. Ida's class president, basically. He's going to tell them everything. Ida follows the rules for the most part. Becomes one of Izuku's closest friends early on. He's one of the first kids we learned the quirk of. His Quark Engine. It's nuts. It's crazy. It definitely was one of the first quirks that made me go, wait. Is that a quirk, or is that something he did? Is it a body modification? I really thought at first that it was more of a body modification, that maybe some people who were born without quirks use technology to give them a power, basically, because it is basically looks like metal exhaust pipes coming out of the back of his calves. It's pretty wild, because they could have easily just said that Ida's a speedster like the Flash, like Quicksilver from the X-Men. They could have just said he's a speedster and he can move at super high speeds. Everything around him looks like it's moving in slow motion. That kind of gimmick. But they decided to go a whole nother direction and put literal exhaust pipes coming out of his calves. And you can excuse most people for thinking that it was not a real thing that he was born with, or something that developed over time. It seemed kind of weird. It makes sense for people to evolve and have super strength, or evolve and be faster than the average human, or evolve and have multiple arms. But to evolve and grow metal exhaust pipes? Nuts. But it really does tell you early on in the story that quirks can literally be anything. They're a lot closer to devil fruit powers from One Piece, because they have like a horse fruit or a gun fruit, and it's nuts. It is nuts. You can have a quirk that makes absolutely no sense, like cameras that come out of your body that can literally take pictures. How do they develop those pictures? I'm not sure. But Ida's quirk, and his whole family, I believe, shares the same quirk. At least his brother for sure does. Has these jets that come out of the back of or exhaust pipes that come out of the back of his calves that shoot fire, exhaust, and make him go faster, makes him kick harder. His specialty is basically super kicks, thanks to the jets that he can burst at certain moments, and he can go fast, or he can just burst for a second to increase the power of his kick. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty unique take on speedsters. I mean, his outfit alone is unique for a speedster. Like I said with the Flash and Quicksilver, they wear these skin-tight outfits that are usually made to avoid friction while running. Well, Ida's outfit is basically a suit of armor, like a knight of sorts, and it's really mainly for protection for him, to protect him. Probably his helmet and whatnot is to protect him from running into bugs and hitting him in the face, but also anything, him moving at those speeds, if something as light as a rock hit him, it could hurt pretty bad. And I do not think, I could be completely wrong, but I do not think that Tenya Ida has a healing factor. The Flash, if he breaks an arm, can heal it in like an hour. Whereas Ida, I believe, if he breaks an arm, it heals normally. He has these jets in the back of his calves that make him much faster than the average person, but he's not like speed of light fast. He's just like a really fast car, if at literal best. And he can push them to their limits temporarily, but then it backs up on him and he has to slow down temporarily as well. Or he can overrun them or run out of fuel. Speaking of fuel, early on in the series you notice Ida drinking a lot of orange juice. It's because the power of his quirk is powered by like citrus fruits, I believe, or fruit juices, and specifically orange juice. He's shown drinking cans of orange juice early on in the series. And I did not know it had something to do with his quirk, but it is like the fuel that powers his super speed. So after they all get accepted into class, I would say that Ida's first big heroic moment was when the villains attack the USJ at the end of Season 1. Most definitely. Kurogiri, part of the League of Villains, and Shigaraki and a bunch of jobbers, no-name villains, show up and attack the school, mostly attack Class 1A, Aizawa, and number 13. And the only two pros with them are 13 and Aizawa. Aizawa goes in like a badass, fighting all the jobbers. Kurogiri goes after the students, splitting them up, basically serving them on a silver platter to all these D-rank villains at best. And it's still a challenge for these kids. This is their first big run-in for most of these children with a villain of any kind, where they have no chance of help from heroes right now, because most of the time they would know if a villain got into the UA. If they got into the UA, the pros should know. but they used Kurogiri's ability to teleport in and just invade the USJ. With most of the students split up, Tenya Ida was thinking, what do? I'm the class president. I need to stay and fight. And he's one of the few kids that can fight at this point in the story, at least that we've seen, that can keep up with hand-to-hand combat. And he's debating on, do I stay and fight and defend my class, or do I run? And he basically has that debate. I believe Ochako and Shoji and a few others of the students are with him. Number 13, they're trying to hold Kurogiri off, who's not letting him get away. But Ida eventually does get away with help from the rest of the class, and he runs as fast as he physically can. And basically, Ida saves the motherfucking day at season 1. In season 1 by running away. Or early in the show, we kind of learn this lesson, the students learn this lesson of you need to figure out how to assess a situation. Decide early, quickly, can I handle this villain on my own or with the people that are currently with me? Or do I need to get the civilian, as many civilians as I can, away into safety and go get help from a pro that can handle this, or backup, get some help. And Ida has basically been faced with this a few times throughout the series, but this was the first. And he, with help from the rest of the class that was with him at the time, made the decision to run away and save the effing day, because he went and got the pros. He went and got All Might. All Might shows up, saves Aizawa, saves Deku, Froppy, Kirishima, Bakugo, the whole gang. Guaranteed somebody would have died by Shigaraki's hands. Or the Nomu, the first Nomu we ever see, who was literally punching the life out of Aizawa's face. I think Aizawa would be dead, and there's a good chance that either Deku or Froppy would have probably been killed by Shigaraki very easily if All Might didn't show up. And All Might wouldn't have showed up on time if Ida didn't get away to save the effing day. So that's pretty cool for Ida's character that he did that. That he made a split decision, got away, and made it happen. And that's pretty cool. He didn't get to be in a big fight, but that happens in Season 2. In Season 2, we get to one of the biggest moments in the entire series so far, the sports festival. I know we're all waiting for the next one, but their first sports festival for Class 1A. And it starts off with a foot race, of all things. And I clearly remember saying, well, Ida's going to win this. Deku is so new, and he can barely control his quirk at this time. I'm like, well, Deku's going to mess this one up. At best, he'll get somewhere in the middle of this race, and I thought Ida should win this. It's his match to win. He's the fastest. It didn't even cross my mind that they wouldn't let the speedster win the foot race, but I also wasn't sure how many of these little gimmick fights there are going to be. Needless to say, Ida did not win this race, even though at the end, when Izuku ended up winning somehow, some way, using strategy, he grabbed a piece of one of the robots that they were using to fight the children during the race. He took a piece of the robot. There were obstacles, basically, in the race. It was like an obstacle race. And he jumped on the mines to explode out of the ground and win the race, projectiling Izuku to the finish line. Right behind him was Shoto and Bakugo. But I almost thought, because of how hard they were kind of pushing Ida as a member of Class 1A, that he was going to just zip by and just barely beat the three top diggity dogs, Bakugo, Shoto, and Izuku. But he did not. He did not win this foot race. And then in the cavalry battle, when Izuku goes up to Ida and he says, hey man, I need some friends. You're one of my only friends here. You want to be part of my team? I won the race. I have the most points. I know I'm a target, but together we can do this. And Ida tells him straight up, hey, you're my friend, but you're also my rival. and I need to show everybody that I can do well without you on my team here. So he joins Shoto's team, and he tells Izuku, like, I'm coming at you, bruh. And you need to understand that I have a legacy to uphold, and I cannot fall. The longer I follow you, the farther I fall behind, is how Ida was feeling. He probably didn't feel good that he lost the foot race of all things, trying to figure out who the hell he is. He joins Shoto. Needless to say, he passes, and Ida makes it to the final 16, the bracket tournament, the moment we've all been waiting for. I knew this festival was going to end in a fighting tournament. And then Ida gets put up against, in round 1, against May, the builder of support items, and she tricks Ida into showing off her support items to the whole world. And then she throws insult to injury and just quits and lets Ida win. So Ida wins by default, basically, in round 1. Probably feels like shit. He lost the foot race, and he was basically just a horse for Shoto in the second round, in the cavalry battle. And then in the first round of the finals of the sports festival, he becomes a laughingstock. But at least in round 2, he did beat one of the strongest characters in Class 1B in Vines, catching her off guard, throwing her out of bounds. Pretty cool stuff, if you ask me. Vines ain't no joke. She kicked a Danky's ass in seconds. And in seconds, Ida threw her out of the damn ring. Pretty cool. Not much to write home about, but he still won. Now, basically in the semifinals, he goes head-to-head with Shoto. And he knows, after watching Shoto demolish his opponents, one after the other, he runs up and grabs Shoto to try to throw him out of the ring, just like he did with Vines. But Shoto is a much better, I don't know how you'd say it, a much more well-rounded warrior, thanks to his father's training, I'm assuming, and freezes the exhaust pipes so that Ida could not win, loses that match, but still gets third place, tied with Fumikage or Tokiyami. Yes, Fumikage, Tokiyami, whatever you want to call him. And Ida still ranks up. He does get an award, but he doesn't show up for the award ceremony. He gets a medal, basically, for making third place, bronze, not silver, not gold. It's still pretty good. At this point, it feels like Ida is our number 4 in out of the top diggity dogs in this class. But he gets a phone call from his mom, and he finds out that his brother has been attacked by the hero killer Stain. Stain, one of our second big bad guy of all time, next to Shigaraki, early on in the series. This is where it lost me a little bit. I feel like Ida's brother should have probably died in the hospital, maybe talking to him, because he was in critical condition. I feel like the hero killer has yet to allow someone to escape his grasp. But I guess it was the creator of My Hero Academia did not want to go ahead and just kill somebody this early, which I can understand. But I mean, killing Ida's brother wouldn't have been that big of a deal at this point, because we don't know that much about him. If you read the My Hero Academia Vigilantes manga, there is a pretty large portion about Ida's brother. I highly recommend it. It's really cool that they dove into his character when they didn't have to. You learn a little bit about his brother. It makes this attack on his brother, the crippling of Ida's brother, feel even worse to the reader. But Ida goes on a vengeance tour. Before I get to that, though, I did forget to mention in Season 1, he did team up with Bakugo to take on Uraraka and Izuku, which didn't really amount to much. The only thing that was great about it is Ida was pretending to be a villain, which was pretty funny. There's a lot of times that Ida becomes a sort of laughing, butt of the joke type character. And then there's a lot of times where he's very serious, like when his brother gets attacked by Stain. Ida starts to think, I'm done following the rules. My brother followed the rules, and look, he's in the hospital, and I need to get revenge for my brother. And his brother basically tells him, you can take over the mantle of Ingenium, the family legacy. I'm gonna, his brother, he still wasn't sure if his brother was even gonna make it while he was in the hospital. He was covered in tubes. I'm sure he was stabbed all over the place. He can't walk anymore, and to take the legs out of a speedster, that's just not even fair. In the end, he goes and he trains with the normal hero. I believe that's what he calls himself, the normal hero. I think his hero name was freaking Manuel, some type of water hero based out in Hosu City. And the dude even says, I didn't expect you, who made 3rd place in the sports festival, who just was a badass, to join my hero agency. My hero agency kind of sucks, basically. What are you doing here? And then he basically calls him out and says, hey man, I know that Stain basically roams Hosu City and you're here looking for revenge. I'm telling you right now, don't do that. It goes against everything a hero is, and you probably will be expelled and never be allowed to be a hero if you go off on your own. Because this internship was before they even got their licenses to be semi-pros. So they had to be attached by the hip by these other pro heroes to learn from, not really get involved unless absolutely necessary with any sort of villains, even if it's petty crime. They're not supposed to do a whole lot, but watch and observe and train, just like Izuku did with Gran Torino. But in the end, Ida does find Stain during a huge attack on Hosu City along with a bunch of Nomu, and Ida almost gets killed by Stain. And this is another thing that made me think that they should have allowed Stain to kill Ida. It would have set a precedence that your actions can have consequences. Either Ida dies or someone dies because of Ida's actions. Maybe they just didn't want to put that much pressure on him. He could never be a happy-go-lucky kid any longer if something major was to happen like that. I know they weren't going to kill Shoto, and I know they weren't going to kill Izuku, but Ida, whose brother survived, could have been killed here. And if it wasn't for Izuku and Shoto, he would have been. And that would have been crazy. I don't know. When I was watching it, at this point, it was only season 2, so it's fair that they don't want to kill any major characters at this point, but it did feel like his brother surviving shouldn't have happened. Unless they decide to use his brother down the line that I haven't noticed for any shape or form. I guess he can still live to be a mentor for him. After they beat Stain, though, really, Ida's kind of relegated to background character for a long period of time. He gets to have the final exams. I think him and Ojiro take on Power Loader, one of their teachers, this construction hero dude. And they win barely by just running away. It was very lackluster of a battle, especially if you compare it to All Might versus Izuku and Bakugo. So they pass the final exams. All the kids really do, technically. Even if he didn't pass that exam, he just would have had to take extra classes, which, he's one of the smartest kids in class. I don't think he minds having more lectures in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't really Ida doesn't really get to do anything of importance during the fight when the villains decide to attack the summer camp where they're all training. And at the time, Ida was just learning in the classroom. He ends up in the classroom. He doesn't really get to fight anybody of importance. He doesn't really get to help the gang protect Bakugo from the villains. It was kind of a lackluster performance by him. I guess the next big moment for Ida was saving Bakugo. Yes, the villains succeed by taking Bakugo away, but Ida gets to be part of the Bakugo retrieval crew the retrieval gang, he tells Izuku, he tells Shoto, he tells Kirishima, hey, we don't need to be involved in this rescue mission. There's dozens of pros involved in this. This is a huge thing. The school is going to get shut down if another thing bad happens to one of us students. We need to stand down. And he realizes quickly that his friends aren't going to. Even Momo didn't want to be involved, but she wanted to keep an eye on everybody. And I think that also inspired Ida to say, okay, I don't believe in any of this, and I think we should stay out of it. But if you're going to do it, no matter what I do, and I'm not going to go tell on you, so I'm going to come with you. But if anything leads to any physical confrontation with the League of Villains, I will grab you and I will run you out of that location. I will not allow you to interfere. Ida and them end up finding Bakugo. The pros are kicking ass, taking names, but then they're getting their asses kicked. Izuku almost decides to jump forward and help, and there was a moment where Ida grabs Izuku and says, don't you motherfucking dare step into this fight. They're all just feeling dread around All for One. But Izuku comes up with an awesome plan that really made Ida a cornerstone of it. He was basically the cavalry battle. He becomes a jet to fly off of one of Todoroki's ice ramps along with Izuku and Kirishima. They save Bakugo because of his speed. If Ida didn't come there's a good chance they wouldn't have been able to save Bakugo. Ida is usually there for these major moments. Real quickly, during the first movie, Ida was a big part of that. Not all the students got to be a part of the first movie. He was a big part of taking out some robots, if I remember correctly. And then in the second movie, Heroes Rising, he was a big part in fighting Chimera. Chimera, the best villain in all the movies so far, in my opinion. Chimera was a beast, literally, and Ida got to be one of the 4 students that got to take him down, along with Froppy, Shoto, and Kirishima. Yeah, he was a big part of that, and I thought that Chimera was a badass villain, and the fact that they had to all 4 work together to take him down, wild. And then really in the actual canon story, after they rescue Bakugo, other than that, we get to see his bedroom, which is pretty plain. He's got a shit ton of glasses, which makes a lot of sense. He wears glasses. He needs them to see. He knows he's going to be training a lot. He knows he's going to break his glasses a lot. So his family probably, for one of his birthdays, just bought him 100 pairs of glasses or more just to make sure he's all set for his school year. He's got like 3 school years to get through. And he needs more glasses because they're going to break constantly. That's pretty cool. But after we see his bedroom, I think the story kind of shifts during the overhaul portion of the story, the overall saga. It kind of centers around Kirishima as more of a main character, and Ida has to take a back seat and just be a supporting role and talk to Izuku, and Izuku's sad and can't handle the fact that he can't go and save Eri. But really, Ida doesn't get a lot to do until season 5, of all things. He's sort of involved in the weird band performance as like a backup dancer. It was pretty funny, I guess, but he didn't get to do a whole lot there. He didn't sing, he didn't play an instrument. But it would have been really cool if it turned out that Ida was just a badass drummer or guitar or trumpet man or saxophone fella. I don't know. It would have been interesting. But Ida does get a major character development in Season 5, in the beginning of Season 5, Ida, shows us that he's not only got new exhaust pipes because his brother told him to pull out the old exhaust pipes, his childhood exhaust pipes, which was pretty gruesome. He had to bite down on something while he pulled them out of his skin and grew bigger, badder exhaust pipes. Now he's even faster. I assume he's as fast as a train instead of a fast car now. And he goes at full burst and beats the shit out of Mudman, which was insane. Basically kicks him square across the face and knocks him out. They tie in this round though, so they don't win. Ida's squad, along with Shoto, Shoji, and Ojiro, they don't win this bout with Class 1B, but they draw. Class 1B barely survived this fight, and Mudman ain't no slouch, if you ask me. Mudman was pretty tough. He's got a really interesting quirk. But our boy Ida is not only now probably as fast as a bullet train, but can kick 3 or 4 times harder than he ever could with his bursting ingenium powers. Then I guess from there we would be getting into spoiler territory. He gets to do a little bit more training while Izuku and them are training with Endeavor, but nothing of note that I can truly remember. I've read the manga. I'm all caught up in the manga. He gets to be a part of the final battle with Shigaraki during the war arc, but it's nothing too important that I can remember. I'll probably get better detail of it when I reread it or watch the anime version of it, probably in Season 6. But I really do think that Ida deserves more screen time. We've built him up to a point where he is one of the main characters. He is not meant to be a background character. In all honesty, I've talked about this before, but I feel like a member of Class 1A needs to die before the end of this show. Before they graduate, one of them has to make the ultimate sacrifice. It could be Izuku, but I don't see that happening because of toy sales. But I could see it being Kirishima, but I also could see it being Tenya Ida. Tenya Ida is a great friend to Izuku Midoriya, and I could see Izuku being against the wall, nowhere to go, about to die. And Ida pops in with his super speed and saves the mother effing day one last time, but dies in the process. Makes the ultimate sacrifice. Pushes Izuku to the next level. Similarly to how Krillin died in front of Goku because of Frieza, or because of King Piccolo's minion Tambourine. When Krillin was killed in front of Goku, he was pushed to the next level, to a Super Saiyan level. Maybe it'll push Izuku to finally 100% master All for One. Or One for All. Just seeing the death of one of his closest friends in a lot of ways. Tenya Ida is the Krillin of this show. He can be the butt of a joke, but he also can get real serious when he needs to. And he is one of Izuku's best friends. Krillin kind of fits his profile in this show. He could make that sacrifice, but there's no Dragon Balls in My Hero Academia, thank God. There is no bringing back these people. If it's him, it's over. It's done. The legacy of Ingenium is over unless his brother is able to walk again. It'd be pretty wild. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that Ida's done of note. He's one of the few kids in Class 1A that's so developed. He's as developed as Kirishima, even more so than Uraka. I think he's got more of a motivation in life to be a pro than Uraka does. He wants to live his family's legacy. At the same time, he wants to be a real hero. And I think his run-in with Stain, where he almost murdered Stain, or at least tried to, changed his perspective of being a hero, because Stain basically said, hey, I deem you not worthy of being a pro hero. And I think that kind of cut deep for him. He was like, man, I can't go on this vengeance tour that I want to go on. I want to save my brother who I've looked up to my whole life. But I need to be my own hero. I need to save the civilians. I need to save the pros that are standing beside me. I need to go focus on the future and not on the past. It's kind of what Ida's doing right now. I think that what needs to happen is Ida needs to have a one-on-one bout with a member of the League of Villains and either die in the process or win. He deserves. I know this show is more about the story than the fights, but I think with his super speed, those kicks, he could go head to head, even if it's him going one-on-one with someone like, someone like Spinner. What if Ida gets to kick Spinner's ass at the end? That'd be something. I think Spinner would be the perfect opponent for Ida when it comes down to it. When it comes down to one-on-one bouts. But I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. Maybe Ida's had plenty of character development. He did get to be involved in this last arc, saving Izuku Midoriya along with all of Class 1A, but he kind of got lost in the shuffle there. Out of everybody there, only Uraraka and Bakugo really stood out, in my opinion. But Ida, his friendship with Izuku, it propelled him to be a better pro, and he wants to be there for his friend Izuku, and that's pretty damn cool. I'm Mr. Morfetto. What do you guys think? Do you think Ida's had enough? Do you think he deserves the spotlight one last time before they wrap up this amazing story? I sure do. I sure do. Comment down below. Subscribe to the Mr. Morfetto page. Tell me what you think of Ida, Tenya, the man, the myth, Quark Engine, Ingenium. Tell me what you think of this guy. I think he's going to make it. I think he's going to be a top 10 pro one day, once the world is put back together, once everything is fixed, once they get past the League of Villains. I think that Ida can graduate one day and be the number 10. That seems like his number, if you ask me. I don't think he'll ever be the number 1 pro. That's kind of locked in for Bakugo or Todoroki or Izuku, but he could be that number 10 pro, and I could see it. I could see kids loving him. He's got the legacy of his brother, and I assume his father or uncle before him. He's going to take that. He should be Ingenium 2.0, if you ask me. I'm Mr. Morfetto, and I will talk to you later.